Yo, what's up? Dr. Swole here, MD, Pro Natural Physique Athlete. That's right, we got a new intro to the channel. If you guys follow me on IG, you may have seen that I competed 2 weeks ago at the WNBF Vancouver Naturals, and I won my pro card. So got first in men's physique and second in my category in bodybuilding. So you know what that means? Got the sword. This has been my life goal in bodybuilding, to earn my natural pro card, and we did it, fam. But today I'm going to be covering one of the most highly requested programs to review, and that is Layne Norton's PHAT program. I will be doing a full review of his program, as well as giving you a modified full program that's designed specifically for hypertrophy. This will be a moderate volume program best designed for an intermediate plus. Quick outline for today, I'll be starting off by doing a review of Layne Norton's PHAT program. PHAT stands for Power Hypertrophy Adaptive Training, and it's a power building system that combines elements of both strength and hypertrophy training in order to develop strength and hypertrophy simultaneously. Layne argued that training for power and strength would also help to develop hypertrophy. The idea is that when you're able to lift heavier weights, you'll be able to develop more mechanical tension. And mechanical tension is the key driver of hypertrophy. So I will be going over a version of his PHAT program and then talking about the pros and cons. After that, we'll address some of the disadvantages of Layne's program in my modified PHAT program, and I'll be sharing a full science-based hypertrophy program with everything you need to know to run it, including exercises, sets, and reps. For more free hypertrophy programs like this, make sure you subscribe, like the video, and let's get into it. Alright guys, let's do our program review. So this will be a candid review of one of Layne Norton's PHAT programs. There are multiple versions of this out, but I'll be using this particular example. The program is laid out as upper body power day, lower body power day, rest, back and shoulders hypertrophy day, lower body hypertrophy day, and chest and arms hypertrophy day. The idea is that you hit your heavy strength-oriented type work early in the week, and then later in the week you go on to your higher rep work. On day one, you start off with a pulling power movement, bent over or pendlay rows, 3 by 3 to 5. I do have to say here that bent over and pendlay rows don't work that well in the sub 5 rep range. And this is because it's very easy for technique to break down on these. Pendlay rows also aren't my favorite for hypertrophy because of the interruption at the bottom of the movement, but they can be good for strength. So then we have an assistance pulling movement, weighted pull-ups, 2 by 6 to 10. These are great, love it. Then we have an auxiliary pulling movement, rack chins, 2 by 6 to 10. These may not be ideal for hypertrophy because they aren't the easiest to overload. Then we have a pressing power movement, flat dumbbell presses, 3 by 3 to 5, an assistance pressing movement, weighted dips, 2 by 6 to 10, an assisted pressing movement, seated dumbbell shoulder presses, 3 by 6 to 10. You have cambered bar curls for the biceps, and then skull crushers for the triceps. Moving on to lower body power day, we have squats, 3 by 3 to 5, and then hack squats, 2 by 6 to 10. We finish off our quad training with leg extensions, 2 by 6 to 10. Then we have our assistance pulling movement, stiff legged deadlifts, 3 by 5 to 8, and then some glute ham raises or lying leg curls, 2 by 6 to 10. Everything so far has been great in this day. After that, we have some calf work, standing calf raises, 3 by 6 to 10, and seated calf raises, 2 by 6 to 10. Then we have a rest day. Then let's go into back and shoulders hypertrophy day. So this is our high rep work. We start off with our pulling power exercise speed work, bent over or pendlay rows, 6 by 3. Now the speed work is going to be helpful for strength, not so much for hypertrophy. And this is because you're limiting the total amount of tension on your muscles just because your reps are so quick. So I do think there's a role for speed work in developing strength, but it's debatable whether this would be efficient from a hypertrophy standpoint. Then we have rack chins, 3 by 8 to 12, seated cable rows, 3 by 8 to 12, and then dumbbell rows or shrugs, 2 by 12 to 15. After that, we have some close grip pull downs for the lats, 2 by 15 to 20. I really like how there is a broad spectrum of rep ranges here. Then we go into some shoulder work, seated dumbbell presses, 3 by 8 to 12, upright rows, 2 by 12 to 15, my favorite, and then side lateral raises for the side delts, 3 by 12 to 20. Let's go into lower body hypertrophy day. You start off with speed work, squats, 6 by 3. Now, as we mentioned earlier, there could be some role for just including pure strength type work, even from a hypertrophy perspective. And this will apply more so to less advanced athletes. But this may break down for advanced athletes, which we'll discuss later. Then we have hack squats, 3 by 8 to 12, and then leg presses, 2 by 12 to 15. We finish off with leg extensions, 3 by 15 to 20. Then we have Romanian deadlifts, 3 by 8 to 12, lying leg curls, 2 by 12 to 15, and seated leg curls, 2 by 15 to 20. Finally, we have donkey calf raises, 4 by 10 to 15, and seated calf raises, 3 by 15 to 20. These are going to be very long workouts just because you have so many exercises. And on this lower body hypertrophy day, for example, you have 28 sets. And when spread over so many exercises, this is going to take you a long time in the gym. Just voicing my thoughts. Let's go on to chest and arms hypertrophy day. We start off with some speed work, flat dumbbell presses 6x3. Then we have incline dumbbell presses 3x8 to 12. Hammer strength chest press 3x12 to 15. And finally, incline cable flies 2x15 to 20. After that, we have cambered bar preacher curls 3x8 to 12, dumbbell concentration curls 2x12 to 15, and spider curls 2x15 to 20. Then we have seated tricep extensions 3x8 to 12, cable press downs 2x12 to 15, and cable kickbacks 2x15 to 20. Solid exercise selection here, although a very long workout. Okay, let's go over some of the pros and cons of this version of Layne Norton's PHAT program. I'll start off by saying PHAT is a very well-designed system, and I actually really like this program, at least for less advanced bodybuilders. Note that we focus on hypertrophy on this channel, so I will be talking about this from the perspective of a bodybuilder. Starting off, PHAT has excellent use of DUP, which is daily undulating periodization. As you saw, you have your heavy power type work earlier in the week, and the higher rep, more traditional hypertrophy type work later in the week. DUP may have some advantage in helping you to develop strength and will allow you to focus on that heavy work on those power days. The program is very well set up for power building, at least for less advanced people. And by power building, I mean that you have strength and hypertrophy as equal top priorities. Now, this does break down a little bit for advanced athletes, which we'll talk about in the cons. But it has a nice balance of low rep heavy work for specificity to strength, as well as the higher rep, less fatiguing hypertrophy oriented training. Lastly, the split itself is actually surprisingly well laid out. It's not one that I'd really thought of, but I really like how it actually intrinsically trains your arms 3 times per week. That is, your biceps get trained on the upper body day, back day, as well as your chest and arms day, and your triceps get trained on the upper body day with your shoulders on back and shoulders day, and then on chest and arms day. The arms tend to respond well to slightly higher frequencies. Okay, now let's talk about the cons for this program. As you can tell, I have a lot of respect for Layne. I think he is a great educator from the science-based bodybuilding perspective. I'm going to share my thoughts on potential disadvantages of his program. First of all, the program will become very fatiguing for advanced bodybuilders, and this will become a limiting problem. Doing a lot of heavy low rep work, especially with those compound movements, is really going to tire you out and will generate a lot of fatigue for the amount of hypertrophy stimulus you get. For beginner and intermediate athletes, training like this is actually going to be great for hypertrophy, largely because you're involving a lot of muscle mass and you're getting a lot of raw stimulus. But if you look at the stimulus to fatigue ratio, the stimulus is high, but the fatigue is also very high. At an advanced level, when you're able to lift heavy loads, the fatigue part of that ratio becomes prohibitively large. Since your body has a limited amount of recoverability resources, you will limit your growth with this kind of training. That's not to say that this will apply to everyone, but it's something to consider. Next, the program involves a lot of exercises in each workout, which leads to long workouts. Practically speaking, you're going to be spending a lot of time waiting for machines, and you don't necessarily need that much variation in every single workout. Lastly, the PHAT program has exhausting power days. You're basically hitting every single muscle group with really heavy loads. And while the DUP programming strategy can work really well from this end, I think the program does overdo it a little bit. That is, I think you're better off spreading out your heavy work a little bit more throughout the week. So now that you heard the disadvantages, let's go into my modified version of the PHAT program. Okay, now let's do a program walkthrough of Dr. Swole's modified PHAT program. This is a moderate volume program best designed for an intermediate plus athlete. I ended up using the same basic split Layne's program used. So upper body power day, lower body power day, back and shoulders hypertrophy, lower hypertrophy, and chest and arms hypertrophy. Here are the exercises, and there are the sets and reps. Here we have the total sets per workout, so you have an idea of workout length. And here we have our weekly muscle group set volumes. We start with upper body power day. We've got bench press 3x3 to 5. And then we have weighted chin-ups for the back, 3x3 to 5. I actually think that weighted chin-ups are well designed for loading heavily. Better so than bent over row variations, because they're easier to lock in your technique with when lifting with heavy loads. Then we have cable rows for the back, 3 sets of 6 to 10. Dumbbell skull crushers for the triceps, 3x6 to 10. Dumbbell lateral raises for the side delts, 5x8 to 12. And standing calf raises, 4x8 to 12. Moving on, we have lower body power day. We start off with a squat, 5 sets of 3 to 5. Then we have deadlifts, 3 sets of 3 to 5. Barbell hip thrusts for the glutes and hamstrings, 3 sets of 6 to 10. Leg extensions for the quads, 3 sets of 6 to 10. and lying bicep curls for the biceps, 4 sets of 6 to 10. You'll see here that I use significantly fewer exercises and instead have a few more sets on each exercise. I think this will just be more efficient from a time perspective. You'll also see that I've swapped bicep and calf training. Biceps do get fatigued by back training, and you'll perform better if you can train them when they're fresh. Moving on to back and shoulder hypertrophy day, we have barbell overhead presses, 3 sets of 5 to 8. And I actually moved our overhead presses from upper body day onto this day. I don't think you need to overhead press that much every week. And when you have them on upper body power day, you're going to be fatigued by benching heavy already. This back and shoulder day is just wide open for some heavy pressing. Then we have the Meadows row for the back, 4 sets of 6 to 10. And then we have lat pull downs for the back, 3 sets of 6 to 10. After that, we have chest supported rows, 3 sets of 10 to 15. Upright rows for the side delts, 5 sets of 8 to 12. And cable lateral raises also for the side delts, 3 sets of 8 to 12. Moving on to lower body hypertrophy day, we start off with the Smith machine squat for the quads, 4 sets of 6 to 10. Followed by Romanian deadlifts for the glutes and hamstrings, 3 sets of 6 to 10. After that, we have leg presses for the quads, 4 sets of 10 to 15. You can superset those with leg press calf raises, 4 sets of 10 to 15. And then leg curls for the hamstrings, 3 sets of 10 to 15. Finally, we have our chest and arms hypertrophy day. So we start off with barbell bench press, 3 sets of 6 to 10. Weighted dips, which I count for the chest and triceps, 3 sets of 6 to 10. After that, we have incline cable flies for the chest, 3 sets of 10 to 15. Easy bar curls for the biceps, 3 sets of 8 to 12. Then you have cable press downs for the triceps, 3 sets of 10 to 15, which you can superset with cable hammer curls for the biceps, 3 sets of 10 to 15. Finally, we have some more cable lateral raises for the side delts, 3 sets of 10 to 15. And I did move a little bit of this side delt work onto this chest and arms day. The side delts tend to do well with high frequencies, and your chest and arms day ends up being the easiest day overall, so it'll do fine adding a little bit of extra work here. You'll see that I program my upper body days to have more sets than the lower body days. And this is because your lower body training is more fatiguing. So this program is quite different, but there are a lot of elements that are mirrored to Layne's PHAT program. I do think there is merit in having some 3 to 5 rep range work in a program, even if it's designed mainly for hypertrophy. I also like the application of DUP here. Let's touch on the weekly setup. As I said before, I actually really like this split. Our power days come earlier in the week. And I actually like how you have this separated out so that you've got 2 power days and then 3 hypertrophy days, because your power days are going to be more fatiguing. This is largely because you're using heavier loads. So it's actually nice that this segment is only 2 days and your hypertrophy segment is 3 days. I like how upper comes before lower, and it's also cool how your arms actually get trained 3 times per week. So I actually didn't make too many changes to the split itself. As you saw, there are a few little tweaks to fit my signature programming setup. The only issue I could see here is that back and lower days come back to back. You ideally want to separate out your back and lower body training as much as possible throughout the week, especially if you're using heavier movements that involve a lot of axial loading. But this is a relatively minor issue since lower comes after back. Your back training is less likely to affect your lower body training than the other way around. I will be sharing this full modified PHAT program as laid out in an Excel file in my Facebook group. If you haven't already joined the Facebook group, find the link in the description below. Join the group and you can download the program for free. If you want to improve your hypertrophy training, check out my book where I teach you how to design your own program and run it over time. To see another power building program, check out this video where I shared my full power building program that I was running last year. If you got value from this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel and we'll see you next time.